When the person you trust the most starts hiding the truth, what do? In this dramatic story, you will learn how secrets and hidden meetings can destroy even the strongest relationships. What was really happening between me and my girlfriend, and how did I become the last one to find out the truth? Discover this story full of secrets and betrayal. So let's begin. Yesterday seemed like an ordinary day. Samantha and I planned to spend the evening together, watch a new movie, order food, and just relax after a tough week. But something went wrong. At first, I didn't think much about the fact that she wasn't responding to messages. Everyone has busy days, I thought. Maybe she was held up at work, or decided to go to her hobby earlier. But by the evening, anxiety started to take hold. She wasn't just not texting, her phone was silent. No signal at all. I checked our shared location tracking app. We both agreed to use it for safety reasons. Samantha often came home late, taking public transport, and I always wanted to make sure she was okay. But her location was turned off. In that moment, I froze. It was strange, not like her at all. Usually, if she turns off the tracking, she at least lets me know. But now, silence. Hour by hour, the worry grew. I called her several times, but every call went to voicemail. Where could she be? Samantha was always a responsible person. She never just disappeared like that without a word. Unpleasant thoughts started creeping in. I tried to calm myself. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she just forgot the charger at work. But the more I thought about it, the stronger the vague anxiety became. I decided to call her friends. First, I contacted Emma, her best friend, but she said she hadn't seen Samantha since last weekend. After that, I started calling other acquaintances. Finally, one of our mutual friends said he saw her at her dance class that evening. A mix of emotions flooded me. On one hand, she was clearly alive and well if she went to her hobby, but on the other, why didn't she come to me as we had planned? Why hadn't she written a single word? These thoughts tormented me, but what worried me even more was that the friend mentioned some guy who was with Samantha at the class. What guy? Why didn't she tell me anything? We always shared things like that. I felt jealousy and confusion knot up inside me. When I finally managed to reach her parents, they didn't provide anything clear either. Her mom irritably said Samantha was sleeping at home and quickly said goodbye. But why was I, her boyfriend, the last to know? Since she had turned off her location, I hadn't heard a single thing, and no one wanted to tell me the truth. The next morning began with even more anxiety. I hadn't slept all night, replaying different scenarios in my head. Samantha still hadn't reached out, her phone was still off, and all my attempts to figure out what happened had led nowhere. On top of that, the thoughts of the guy mentioned by the friend haunted me. Who was he? Why hadn't she told me she'd be with him? Why did she turn off her location? The longer I thought about it, the more my distrust in Samantha grew. I remembered an incident from a few days ago. She said a coworker was giving her a ride to work. That was strange because I always offered to drive her myself, especially in the mornings when my schedule was flexible. But at the time, she vaguely said it was inconvenient and urgent. I didn't think much of it then, but now everything looked different. Maybe this coworker was the same guy from her hobby. Around 9 in the morning, my phone rang. It was her mother. She curtly informed me that Samantha had injured herself at work yesterday, possibly broken her leg, and was taken to the hospital. Her mother explained that Samantha was on strong painkillers, so she slept through the night, which is why no one had been in touch. I should have felt relieved, but instead, I was hit with even greater shock. How was that possible? If she had really broken her leg, how could she have been at her hobby in the evening, as our friend said? This story didn't add up. Who took her to the hospital? I asked, trying to stay calm, though I was boiling inside. Her coworker, Samantha's mom answered. He happened to be nearby and offered to help. Then he brought her home. The coworker. Him again. My mind raced with different scenarios. Why hadn't she called me when it happened? Why was this coworker there, and I was the last to know what happened to her? I felt the anger rising. My own girlfriend had been taken to the hospital, and I was kept in the dark like I meant nothing to her. It seemed like she had grown closer to this coworker than to me. Why didn't she call me? I asked again, trying to make sense of it all. She was in shock, Samantha's mother replied, and the painkillers did their job. Don't worry, she'll call you herself once she wakes up. I ended the conversation, but I was seething inside. No explanations, just evasive answers and strange coincidences. I didn't know what to do next, but one thing was clear: the trust between Samantha and me was cracking. After the conversation with her mother, my mind was in chaos. Samantha hadn't contacted me, and it continued to eat away at me. My inner voice whispered, "Something's not right." I tried to convince myself that she was simply in shock, that this was all just a result of an unfortunate accident and circumstances. But every new thought only added fuel to the fire. I couldn't accept that I had learned everything from her mother and friends, but not from her to be why evening. I couldn't take it anymore and decided to go to her place. Maybe seeing her in person would help me get the answers I needed. When I arrived at her apartment and knocked on the door, her mother opened it. Samantha was lying on the couch, her leg bandaged and looking quite serious. But her face, despite the tiredness and painkillers, seemed distant, as if she wasn't happy to see me. "How are you?" I asked, trying to stay calm, though I was still storming with emotions inside. "I'm fine," she replied curtly, avoiding my gaze. "Just a bad hit. I'm feeling better." Those words only heightened my worry. She seemed calm, but something in her tone, in her behavior, was different. She wasn't the same as before, as if something had happened between us that I didn't know about. "Why didn't you call me?" I finally asked, gathering my thoughts. I was the last to know about everything. Your parents, friends, they all knew but not me. She looked at me, but her gaze remained cold. I was in shock, Alex. I wasn't thinking about it. I just wanted to go home and sleep. Her answer felt like I didn't matter in that moment. She didn't apologize, didn't show any regret. It hurt me deeply. If I had been in her place, the first thing I would have done was call her. We were always open with each other, so why was she distancing herself now? And that coworker. I blurted out unexpectedly, unable to hold back the mounting suspicions. "Why was he with you? Why didn't you tell me?" Her eyes narrowed sharply, as if she became defensive. "He just happened to be nearby. I didn't see any point in bothering you," she said. "He offered to help, and I agreed." Every word she said sounded convincing, but deep down, I knew it wasn't just that. It seemed to me that something more was hidden behind this help. Samantha had never been so closed off, always sharing her thoughts and feelings with me. And now, it felt like she had become a stranger, unreachable. With each word she spoke, it was as if an invisible wall was being built between us. "So you didn't see any point?" I repeated, hardly believing my ears. "We're a couple, Samantha. We always tell each other everything, and now I'm the last to know what happened to you." "Alex, don't complicate things," she sighed and turned away, as if the conversation no longer mattered to her. "It's all over now. It was just an accident." But to me, it wasn't just an accident. It was a sign that something was wrong in our relationship. And that sign was too obvious to ignore. I stood there, looking at her, feeling like my world was slowly falling apart. Samantha had distanced herself from me, and her words felt like those of a stranger. And at that moment, I realized that maybe what we once had no longer existed. After that conversation with Samantha, I left, but 1,000 unanswered questions remained in my head. We had always been so close, shared everything, and I couldn't believe that she had suddenly become so distant. Her cold gaze, her detached answers, this whole situation with her coworker, it was tearing me apart inside. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I just kept replaying our last conversations and moments together. But the more I thought about it, the stronger the feeling of betrayal consumed me. Over the next few days, Samantha didn't make any effort to meet or talk. All her messages were short and dry, as if we were just acquaintances. My suspicion that there was something going on between her and that coworker grew stronger every day. I couldn't get rid of the thought that she had chosen him over me at the moment when she needed help. I decided to act. I needed to clarify the situation and get answers, even if they turned out to be painful. So I started looking for information about her coworkers, and eventually, I found out that his name was Andrew, and they often crossed paths at work. Moreover, they weren't just co-workers. They had lunch together, sometimes stayed after work for extra tasks. This only confirmed my worst fears. The next day, when Samantha said she had a late shift, I made a decision. I needed to see them together. I drove to her office in the evening and, sitting in my car, watched the entrance. After some time, I saw her come out. Samantha walked slowly, leaning on a crutch, and next to her was Andrew. They walked side by side talking, and to my mind, too cheerfully for just co-workers. Andrew said something, and Samantha laughed, a laugh I hadn't heard from her in a long time. A sharp pain of jealousy shot through me. I wanted to approach them, say everything, but something inside me stopped me. Instead, I stayed in the car and kept watching as they walked to his car. He helped her get in, gently supporting her hand, as if it was something more than just a gesture of assistance. I couldn't hold back and sent her a message, "Where are you?" There was no reply. I continued to watch as they drove away, and in that moment, I realized that something between us was broken. No matter what she said, no matter how she justified her actions, this moment changed everything. Later that evening, Samantha called me. Her voice sounded calm, as if nothing had happened. "Hey, Alex. Did you want to talk about something?" Her voice was too carefree for someone who had just spent the evening with a coworker while hiding it from me. "Yeah, I did," I replied, trying to hold back the storm of emotions. "Where were you? Why didn't you tell me you were with Andrew?" There was silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing. It became slightly more tense. "We just went for a coffee after work, nothing special," she finally said, but there was something new, unfamiliar in her voice. It was as if she was avoiding something important. "You didn't even think to tell me." I could no longer hold back my anger. "You're hiding the truth from me again. You meet with him behind my back, and it's just nothing special?" "Alex, you're misunderstanding everything." Her voice became more assertive, but still distant. "I didn't want to bother you. We're just co-workers." "Just co-workers," I repeated bitterly. "Then why didn't you call me when the accident happened? Why did he take you, not me? Why have you started hiding everything from me?" Samantha was silent. I could feel the tension between us growing. In her silence, I heard the answers to all my questions. We were standing on the edge of a breakup, and that feeling wouldn't let me go. Maybe I had already lost her. "Alex, let's not talk about this now," she finally said, but her voice was empty. "I'm tired, I need to rest." "Rest?" I repeated with sarcasm. "From me or from our relationship?" There was no reply. She simply said goodbye and hung up. After our last conversation, I realized that Samantha and I had drifted apart completely. Her silence, evasive answers, and unwillingness to discuss what was happening between us only reinforced my belief that something was wrong. But the thought continued to torment me. If everything was truly over, why wouldn't she say it directly? Why wouldn't she admit what I already felt? A few days later, I decided to meet with Andrew, her coworker. I didn't know what to expect from this, but I needed to hear his side of the story. Maybe he would say what Samantha was hiding. Maybe he could give me the answers she didn't want or couldn't provide. We agreed to meet at a cafe near his work. When I saw him, he looked completely calm, as if there was nothing strange about our meeting. He even smiled, offering me a seat at the table. "Listen, Alex," he began as soon as we sat down. "I understand why you decided to talk to me. And I want to make it clear right away. There's nothing between me and Samantha." His confidence seemed suspicious to me. It was too easy, too calm. As if he had prepared for this conversation in advance. "If there's nothing between you," I replied, trying to stay composed, "then why is she hiding so much from me? Why didn't she call me that day? Why were you with her instead of me?" Andrew hesitated for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. His answer was cautious. "We're just good friends, Alex. And I really was nearby when it happened. I helped her because it was convenient, nothing more. She didn't want to bother you because she thought you'd worry too much. Do you understand how this looks?" I asked, feeling my patience running out. "I see her distancing herself from me. I see her hiding something. And you're telling me it's just a coincidence." He sighed heavily, as if tired of this conversation. "Alex, I don't know what to tell you. Samantha and I are really just co-workers, and she has her own reasons for acting the way she does. But I have nothing to do with it." I looked at him, trying to catch something in his eyes, in his tone, that could reveal a lie. But he looked sincere. This only confused me more. If this was the truth, and he wasn't involved, then what was happening? After our conversation, I felt even more lost. Andrew hadn't given me direct answers, but he didn't seem guilty either. He spoke confidently, as if he really believed that everything happening was a misunderstanding. But doubts remained. Maybe it wasn't about him. but about Samantha. Something had changed in her, and it was inevitable. The next day, I tried to talk to Samantha again. I needed to know the truth, even if it was unpleasant. When I went to her place, she greeted me with the same distant look that had already become familiar to me. "We need to talk," I started immediately, not wasting time on greetings. "I can't live in this uncertainty anymore. What's happening between us? You're avoiding me, hiding things. If you want to leave, say it directly." Samantha was silent for a long time, avoiding my gaze. Finally, she quietly said, "Alex, I didn't want things to turn out this way. It's hard for me. I'm just tired." "Tired of what?"
Of ME?
"Of our relationship." My words came out sharper than I intended. She shook her head but didn't give a direct answer. "It's not that simple," she finally said. "I'm confused. I need time to think things over." I felt the anger boiling inside me. She was once again avoiding a direct answer, once again leaving me in the dark. "You're confused," I repeated bitterly. "And what about me? Did you think about how this looks to me? Why do you always put me last?" She didn't reply, and in that moment, I realized that I had already lost her. No matter what she said or did next, our relationship was broken. I left her that day with a sense of emptiness. There were no more strength or desire to continue this endless cycle of half-truths and lies. Every conversation with Samantha only pushed us further apart. What once seemed so strong and unbreakable was now destroyed to its core. I had tried to save our relationship, to understand her, to give it a chance, but every answer she gave was cold, and every look she gave me reminded me of how far apart we had become a few days past, and Samantha still hadn't reached out. I had expected her to at least try to explain or fix things, but instead, everything remained the same. It was as if she had simply erased me from her life. It hurt to realize that the person you loved no longer felt anything for you. At some point, I decided I wouldn't wait any longer. If Samantha wasn't ready to fight for our relationship, then maybe I shouldn't either. I deleted her number, removed all her pictures, and decided to let go of everything that tied us together. It wasn't easy, but otherwise, I would continue to torment myself with endless questions and guesses. Just when I was starting to get used to the idea that our relationship was over, something unexpected happened. One morning, a few weeks after our last conversation, I received a message from Samantha. It was short but piercing: "We need to talk." I didn't know what to expect, but inside me, the feelings I had tried to suppress flared up again. Maybe she was finally ready to explain everything? Maybe she wanted to get our relationship back? I agreed to meet, though I wasn't sure I was ready to go through all that pain again. When I arrived at the cafe, Samantha was already sitting at the table, nervously fiddling with the handle of her coffee cup. She looked tired, as if these past few weeks hadn't been easy for her either. I sat down across from her, and she began speaking first. "Alex," her voice was quiet, almost guilty, "I have to tell you something. I haven't been honest with you all this time, and you deserve to know the truth." My heart started racing. I didn't know what to expect, but I felt that this conversation would be the final point in our relationship. "That day when I got injured at work," she sighed and seemed to gather her courage to tell the truth, "I really should have called you. But instead, I called Andrew. I didn't know how to tell you this, but I started seeing more in him than just a friend. I didn't plan this. I didn't want it to happen. But we started spending more time together, and I got confused." Samantha's words hit me like lightning. Everything I had suspected for so long turned out to be true. Her evasiveness, coldness, secret meetings, none of it was an accident. So what was it? I asked, barely holding back my anger. "You started a relationship with him behind my back?" "No," she answered, lowering her gaze. "We didn't cross that line. But I can't say that I didn't think about it. And that only makes it worse. I understand that I betrayed you emotionally, and it hurts me to admit that." Emotional betrayal. Those words overwhelmed me with feelings of hurt and disappointment. I had spent all this time trying to figure out where I went wrong, what I had done. But it turned out the issue wasn't with me. "Why didn't you just tell me?" I asked bitterly. "Why did you drag it out for so long?" "I was scared," she quietly replied. "Scared of losing you, scared to admit it even to myself. But the longer I hid it, the further we drifted apart. And now I realize that I'm the one who destroyed everything we had." Silence filled the space between us. I looked at her and realized that her confession changed nothing. Everything was over. Her fears, her secrets, they had already caused irreparable damage. Even if we tried to fix things, it wouldn't be enough to save us. "You're right," I said quietly, lowering my head. "It's over between us." Samantha nodded, as if she herself understood that this was the only way out. We said goodbye surprisingly calmly, without fights or accusations. It was a final acknowledgement that our paths had diverged, walked out of the cafe, and the cold air hit my face. A feeling of emptiness gripped my chest, but at the same time, a realization came that I was now free. Free from lies, suspicions, and pain. Maybe one day this would all pass, and I could trust and love again. But for now, I just stood on the street, looking at the sky, knowing that this chapter of my life was over. Thank you for listening to this story until the end. In life, as in this story, it's often hard to tell where trust ends and betrayal begins. If you have a story of your own that you would like to share, write to us at the email address provided in the description below the video. Your story could become the basis for the next tale on our channel. Also, don't forget to leave your comments under the video. Your opinion is very important to us and to the author of this story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new exciting stories full of drama and unexpected twists. See you in the next stories.